Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews, an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 16 years now, we've been asking the Franchpreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show. We're meeting with Adam Povlitz, the CEO and president of Anago Cleaning Systems, an internationally franchised commercial cleaning brand with over 30 years of experience. And whether you're a hotel looking for quality common area cleaning or a medical facility needing trustworthy commercial janitorial services, Anago is the right choice for your commercial cleaning solutions. I'm going to talk to Adam about that in just a moment on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we have a great show.
Franchise Teacher.
Would you like to know how to franchise your concept or grow your franchise business?
Meet the experts at Franchise Teacher.
The goal of Franchise Teacher is to teach, coach, consult, and advise. The team of experts at Franchise Teacher will evaluate your business model and present you with a winning business strategy.
Franchise Teacher will help you decide whether or not your concept works and if it's franchisable. Franchise Teacher is proud to have over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors.
Franchise Teacher are developers of over a dozen franchise systems, which include brick and mortar as well as home-based concepts of nearly 3,000 combined franchise locations.
Whether you need to add more units or get more customers, Franchise Teacher can help. We will teach.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn our proven system.
Coach.
Franchise Teacher will help you provide a game plan to succeed.
Consult.
Franchise Teacher will make sure you stay on track.
And advise.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn from our over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors. Take advantage of our free, no-obligation phone consultation. Simply go to franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
That's franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you're listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 16 years now, we've been asking the Franchpreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show. Well, we're meeting with Adam Povlitz, the CEO and president of Anago Cleaning Systems, an internationally franchised commercial cleaning brand with over 30 years of experience. And whether you're a hotel looking for quality common area cleaning or a medical facility needing trustworthy commercial janitorial services, Anago is the right place for your commercial cleaning solutions. Hi, Adam. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Marty. How are you?
I'm doing well, Adam. It's great to finally have you on the show. We always like to ask our guests, where are you calling from this morning, Adam?
I am calling from, I would normally say sunny, but today rainy Pompano Beach, Florida. Just outside of Fort Lauderdale.
Okay, well, yeah, we've been getting. I'm in Easton, Pennsylvania, Adam. We've been getting killed with rain this summer. It's just it's been terrible. Yeah. But I'm so happy to finally have you on the show. You know, I realize I don't think we've been doing this show 16 years, and I'm so familiar with your brand. So to finally get the chance to speak to you today is a privilege. I thought, when I said 30 years, I mean that's a long time, isn't it? I said maybe we could talk a little bit about 30 years is a long time, but the history of Anago Cleaning Systems.
Yeah, I've only even been here for 14 of the 30. My father founded the company back in 1989. And we didn't even start franchising at the master franchise level until 1999. So the first 10 years was just running a traditional cleaning business essentially.
Right.
So all of our growth has really happened over the last 20 years. Very American story, right? Entrepreneur starts a business, kind of slogs their way forward, and then finally something strikes, whatever it may be, and the rest is history.
How did your dad, I don't want to say pull you into the business, Adam? I mean, you've been familiar with the brand. It seems like almost like your whole life, right? I mean, at what point, how did your dad bring you in? Because I know you have a background in finance, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it was definitely pulled me.
He did. Okay.
I had no intention of joining a family business. I was always go it on your own type of person. Right. My background is, like you said, is that I was at IBM corporate finance for a little while up in New York, and it was right around the 2008-2009 period. I got hired. There was this wave they did of layoffs. I was actually I wasn't laid off. I was on the team reviewing people of essentially like who was going to be let go at IBM in 2009, the big recession.
Right.
I didn't have any names or anything like that. Everyone was an employee number. And when you start realizing that you're just a number at some of these big corporations, you go, wait a minute, I got to rethink my career path. My dad said, you got to check this thing out. It was 2009. He goes, you got to check this thing out. I think I might have the tiger by the tail. And it was about 6 months or so later that I had joined Anago. And when I joined Anago, he goes, you're not joining as, the founder's son. You're going to do everything. So I started, I was a telemarketer during the day. Wow. And at night I was a franchisee's assistant cleaning a daycare. That was my first job.
That's fantastic. I think that's great. And, it's so your dad, I guess he never, when he first started Anago Cleaning Systems, so franchising wasn't even in the picture back then, was it, Adam?
He originally, I'm originally from Michigan. Our family's originally from Michigan. He started with his brothers. It was just a traditional self-perform cleaning company. And we moved down to Florida when I was just a kid. Okay. My grandmother had moved down, so he moved down to help her out. Actually ended up doing a little bit of time at Jani King, which was one of the biggest competitors. Sure. They're the McDonald's of our industry, if you will. Right. Saw the model, understood it, and ultimately decided I think I could do this better. And so it was originally, but his background had always been in just traditional cleaning, and it wasn't until I think it was 1991 that the first unit franchise for Anago was sold.
It's such an important service, Adam. I wanted to say we went to Virginia Beach last weekend, and we got a hotel. I won't even tell you the brand name with the hotel we were staying in, but it was an upscale brand name hotel. And the only thing that bothered us the most was we were surprised anyway at the cleanliness of the hotel. Maybe because it was right by the beach. I don't know, but it's such an important part of any business is the cleanliness of it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's such a major. It is the major contributor to first impression, right? And the first impression is the lasting impression, right? And so you got to have. It's got to look clean. It's got to smell clean. Otherwise, as a business, your customers are going to notice that right away. Right,
exactly, and that's what happened there. And so when you're talking about Anago Cleaning Systems, Adam, like if you or one of your, let's say, franchise development people were at like a franchise show and someone came up to your booth and they said, what is Anago? How do you describe the franchise or the system? Where do you typically go from there?
I always start with what people know. So I say, most franchises that you're familiar with are a two-tier franchise, right? So McDonald's, there's the corporate office, and then the guys who own the restaurants, okay? Right. With ours, it's a three-tier franchise, which is pretty unique to commercial cleaning in the industry. But so we have what's called a master franchise. We have the corporate office, we have the master franchise, and then we have the unit franchise. So when I say commercial cleaning, the first image that typically pops into someone's head is the guy with the vacuum or the mop in the bucket. Right. And that's part of it. However, what that is someone who, when you get that vision in your head, that is typically a unit franchise owner in their business, right? So typically commercial, the cleaning aspect is done at night. So a unit franchise owner is going to hire a crew, learn the equipment, get the chemicals, and make sure the buildings are cleaned. Now, but what people don't think about on the commercial cleaning side is, where did he get that client? How is he going to make sure that client gets billed and he gets paid for the services he performs? Right. So that's where our model is unique, is the master franchise is essentially a white-collar business in a blue-collar industry. So the master franchise does all of the sales and marketing, all of the invoicing and collections, daytime customer service, but doesn't clean a single building. Right. Where the unit franchise, they focus on keeping the customers happy, knowing the chemicals, equipment, cleaning the building, but does not have to have a dedicated marketing department, salesperson, accounting people. They can just, so it creates a cool synergy where both sides essentially minimize the overhead for the other.
Right. I think that's great. It is what separates you from a lot of other franchises that are out there, Adam. And, when I think of your industry too, because we've interviewed probably every industry, up to this point. And I've always thought of your industry as being a more lower cost type of industry that someone can get into, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we actually just came in top 5 low cost franchises for franchises to start under $25K according to Entrepreneur Magazine. I want to say it was number 2. We're live, but don't quote me.
I won't quote you. That's great. That's fantastic. And it's interesting, Adam, because again, you've gotten to see the business from being a young person. It would be interesting to have your dad here. To ask him, something like, how does technology play a role in your business today? I guess it's a lot different from when your dad originally first started the business, right?
Yeah, I mean, when he first started the business, a lot, I think he was actually on the cutting edge of technology, because it was the early 90s, and we were probably one of the few places using computers regularly, using templates in, I don't even think it was Microsoft Word. It was I don't remember what program it was.
Like WordPerfect or something like that,
Yeah, probably, it was probably WordPerfect, using that sort of stuff. I mean, it literally was, when, in the 80s, it was typewriters. And so, everything was hand-typed, and now it was templated. And now we're at a place where, I would argue we are the technological leader in the space. Wow. And look, there's nobody has any edge when it comes to the equipment, right? We all have the same vacuums and mops But where we've decided to focus our technology is on the customer service piece, right? Because most of the time, if you ask someone who cleans your office, I would say 9 out of 10 people have no idea. But they do notice when they walk in and the trash can is full, right? Yes, so there's always that human element where mistakes can get made, and they go, wait a minute, why is my trash can full? Who do I tell? How do I get this resolved quickly? Right. And so we've invested our resources. So now for if you're an Anago customer, we have an app. You take a picture on your phone. It sends that to the franchise owner that's responsible for cleaning your building. It's triggered that they must respond within 2 hours. Okay. It has every language, so you can translate it. Maybe if your native language is English and there's a Spanish or something like that, it translates it, so it helps the conversation along. Right now, in most companies, you know what they do? They have some notebook that's just left around the office. You got to find it. You got to go, okay, where the heck is the notebook? I got to leave a note. You know, maybe it's, hey, do you speak that language? Can you translate this for us? You leave the note, and then you got to wait literally 24 hours to find out if they even saw your note and did anything about it. Where this is instant in every language.
That's clever. I think that's clever. I'm curious, Adam. And I hate to use the word opportunity, but how did COVID change things for it? It seems to me, and again, I don't know what other words to use an opportunity, but maybe there was a shift or pivot in your business. How did COVID affect Anago?
Yeah, and that is, it's always obviously a delicate, time in our recent history, but from a commercial cleaning business standpoint, it was actually it was very good for business. I think
that's what I was thinking.
It made people realize, that, hey, wait a minute, maybe this isn't, just some bottom line budget issue that we're trying to minimize, but these guys can be, partners in the health of our company and our staff and our guests. But the main, I would say that, it was almost a, tectonic shift. I mean, this was, it used to be the push-pull in marketing and the marketing channels. So think of the pharmaceutical industry, right? Where it used to be the pharmaceutical company would come up with a drug, they'd go to the doctor and say, hey, we got this drug, can you tell the patients about it? And then, and if they did, great. And if they didn't, well, they lose out. What happened in the 90s, though? Remember the little blue pill?
Sure. Yes, I do.
The Viagra, right? They changed everything with Pfizer. They go, wait a minute, why would we advertise to these doctors when we can go directly to the consumers? And of course, the men go, give me that pill, I want that, and their wives just let them go get it too.
Yeah, that's a great example.
What happened to us during COVID was the same shift. It went from us chasing down potential customers saying, hey, give us an opportunity to give you a quote, to customers coming to us and saying, listen, we need someone to come out here to ensure our office is disinfected so none of our customers or our employees are concerned about their health when they come here.
Right.
So it was a total shift in business model from push to pull.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And the industry, I mean, again, you think of buildings, again, whether it's when I was in Virginia Beach, I was looking at all the hotels, and of course you have hospitals and buildings and things like that. I mean, I guess it's safe to say, I don't know what the numbers are, Adam, but I mean, you're part of a very big industry, aren't you?
Yeah, the industry is massive. I mean, the industry for North America, you're looking at about $100 billion with a B, $1 billion a year. So it is massive. And what's unique is that when it comes to the franchise model, nobody holds more than say 3 or 4% of any market.
Wow.
So anytime, I mean, it's like going to CVS versus Walgreens or Duane Reade or whatever it may be. If there's one on this corner, you better put one on the opposite corner because there's that much business. Right.
Absolutely. That's incredible. What's been one of the most interesting things that's happened to you since being part of Anago Cleaning Systems, Adam? I'm sure you have like 1,000 stories, we could share if we were having a cup of coffee or something. But does anything, stand out, with your time with Anago? It's a tough question, and we like to stump our guests once in a while.
I mean, I think what I mentioned about COVID was very interesting. How about this? Recently, we had in 2022, maybe 2022 plus, let's call it. Maybe maybe this started 2 months before 2022. But 2022, so a typical year for us, we'll add maybe a handful of master franchise level folks, and that's a good year. I mean, the master franchise is a higher level investment. It's a exclusive territory ownership. 2022 was the first year that existing master franchise owners buying additional territory outpaced new sales and by like a factor of 2. And it was cool because we probably had, I think it was about 5 or 6 folks saying, I see the opportunity, especially coming out of COVID. I see the opportunity. And it became almost like a land grab. People were going like, no, I want this. I want this area, and give me this area too. And so it was such a cool pivot. It made me feel like we had done a good job, frankly. Where we're clearly offering the support that they need. We're giving them the resources that they need, so that many people said, I understand it. I understand there's a lot of money to be made, and I want more.
That's great. Yeah, that's a great example. Maybe we could talk a little bit about franchising, Adam. So, I mean, what's important? I know in the past you've even worked in franchise development. You worked all the different areas of Anago Cleaning Systems. What type of characteristics or traits do you look for when taking on a new franchisee? Again, I know there's the different systems. You got the 3 tiers, so that would be a factor. But what's important to you?
I mean, I think across the board, it's got to be drive. That whether you're a master franchise or a unit franchise, at the end of the day, this is there's sort of across the franchising industry, there's hunter models and there's farmer models, right? This is we'll keep picking on McDonald's. McDonald's is a farmer model. It's you build the restaurant, you hire the staff, McDonald's corporate does whatever I'm loving it ads that they put out there for you, and people come to your restaurant. And that's don't get me wrong, I'm not, obviously multi-billion-dollar company, nothing negative to say about them, but that's a farmer model. You're waiting for the business to come to you. This is a hunter model. You're hiring a sales staff, you're bringing on people, you're going out to the community and trying to engage potential customers, potential franchisees. It's someone who has to wake up, every morning hungry. The old African proverb where the lion wakes up and has to outrun the slowest gazelle, and the gazelle wakes up and has to outrun the fastest lion, but everybody wakes up running.
Right, exactly. That's a good analogy. Yeah, I like that. It's clever. So I guess a sales background would be important to some extent, right? As you said, but that drive helps, of course, in selling, and of course having passion for the model and things like that. Those things would be important to be successful in the business as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, obviously, anything where you have, any kind of industry or tangential knowledge, sales, anything to do with cleaning, operations, it always is going to give someone a leg up. But we've found, some of our most successful franchise owners have zero sales background, maybe like limited sales management, but it's the hunger. It really is. I mean, one of our more successful ones was a CFO for many years for a big retail brand that I won't get into, but no sales background, and is absolutely doing a phenomenal job because it's okay. What else can I do today? How can I get 1% better today?
Right. Is that part of the training too, Adam? Maybe we could talk a little bit about that. How does the training work then once, someone does decide to become part of Anago Cleaning Systems? Do they come to corporate headquarters? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so a new master franchise owner is going to come here. It's just under 2 weeks. It's about 9 total days, and one Saturday in there where we actually take them out and do some cleaning. But it is very heavily focused kind of on multiple repetitions of day in the life, right? So learning our CRM, we actually run live appointments, run live, walkthroughs, inspections, all of that sort of stuff with them until, there's franchise disclosure pitches, practicing. But it's drinking from the fire hose. It's very intensive for 2 weeks. Yeah. And then just to make sure, because we're very big on making sure people are, still comfortable when you leave, then we give them 6 additional visits in their first year. So literally every other month, one of our field reps is out there for a week checking in. How are your sales figures going? Any issues? How are your bids looking? How are your franchise sales looking? Let's dig into it and make sure you're totally comfortable. So it's a lot of training to ensure that they're ready to go.
That's great. I guess one of the questions I'd like to ask too is to describe a typical day as a franchisee, Adam. And again, I guess it depends, of course, on the model, if you're a master franchisee or unit franchisee. But so from the unit level, I guess it's most of the work for this is, of course, done at nighttime, right? But is it like weekends, or also like maybe you could talk a little bit about that, like how that works, like a typical day, if there is such a thing?
Yeah, so typical day for a unit franchise. A lot of unit franchisees come in, and it's a side hustle, man. It is something where they're looking to make a couple extra bucks. Maybe they have a day job and they're going, let me see what else there's available to me. Right. And then they go out and maybe they clean 1, 2, 3 accounts and go, wait a minute, this is good money in this thing. Right. And slowly we transition from having it as a day job and a side hustle to like this is what they do for a living. Yeah. And then a typical day for a master franchise, it depends a lot on the scale that they're at, but say a startup master franchise, a lot of times we say, listen, go run some of these sales appointments yourself, get used to, getting out in the community, get comfortable with it. Right. But then ultimately when they're scaling up, it turns into managing a sales staff, having weekly meetings with your team. Let's check in on where everything is. Meetings with your operational teams. How is everything going with customers? Is everybody happy? Are all the franchisees, getting the training that they need, and so on. So it depends on where they're at in their growth, but it is. But I mean, I'm sure other brands say this too. But I mean, there is no typical day. It's probably just an amalgam of lots of atypical days.
Sure, of course. Yes, it's so true. So you've been involved in franchising for quite some time, Adam. So when I have someone like yourself on the show, I like to ask this question: is what advice would you give to our listeners? We call them aspiring franchipreneurs in their quest to buy a franchise, because it seems like there's so much out there. I recently heard a number. I was doing an interview a couple of weeks ago. I didn't even know the number was this high. I think they said there's something like 4,000 different systems out there today, and I said, oh my God, that's a lot. So like, where do you begin? So from everything you've learned up to this point, what advice would you give to our listeners then in their quest to find that great franchise opportunity for themselves?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, it's. I would say do a little bit more digging than you would think, and I mean that on two levels. Number one, there's a lot of, I mean, like you said, 4,000 brands. That's a lot of brands.
Yeah, that is a lot of brands.
There's 4,000 brands out there, and so what ends up happening is, that we as the consumer kind of get stuck on the brands we know of. And so you go, I want to learn more about Subway, or I want to learn more about, Papa John's, or whatever. The brands you've heard of. But by the time you've heard of the brand, those brands are established to where it's going to cost significantly more to get into one of those brands. They're very, everything is very beyond structured at that point.
Yes.
Whereas a new up and coming brand, if you're willing to put in the time, learn a little bit about it. I mean, it's a brand where you can get in early at a more reasonable price point, and ultimately have influence on where that brand direction goes. Right. If you're willing to think outside the box a little bit, and find something that's more new versus something that's just totally established and ubiquitous to culture. And then honestly, the other part is ask questions. I mean, there are no stupid questions when you're working with a potential franchise. And you have to make sure it's something you're going to be passionate about. That's something that excites you. Is it something that you could see yourself doing every day? Yeah. Because if it's not, man, I wouldn't buy that business. It's not like a job where you just go, okay, well, I'm going to give my 2 weeks notice.
Right.
So you have to be very, very certain that it's the right opportunity for you.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, Adam. There used to be this joke, like with like Subway or McDonald's. Like, I mean, you would be called, like, you were talking about basing people as numbers. Like franchisee number 10,987. You know what I mean? I said, oh my God, who wants to be known as that, right? You know what I mean? Where the franchisees have the ability to talk to someone like yourself. If they want to get you on the phone, they can actually talk to you, can't they?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, you don't want to be franchise 21. Don't be franchise 10,000. And
Exactly. So I think that's great advice. So if you could look into a crystal ball, Adam, whether that crystal ball is like a year or 3 years or 5 years, where do you see Anago cleaning systems?
So I actually just issued a goal to our franchisees. So I issued a goal in 2021 to our franchisees. I wanted to grow revenue by 50% and be $100 million brand in 2 years, and we did it in 19 months. And so I had the stupidity or audacity. You could decide. We'll decide. History will be the judge 5 years from now. Right. But, I issued a challenge just past February. We're calling it Vision 2028, and we issued it's a nine-piece plan to triple revenue, to be at $300 million in recurring revenue by 2028. That's so wonderful. We're on a roll. We've just completely replaced our entire CRM. We're adding I think I've added about 7 key senior staff members. I've realized I needed more, even more smart people to help me get this thing going. Right. So we have big goals, and I think we might be able to pull it off. We'll find out, I guess.
I think that's great, Adam. And it sounds like you're happy too. I mean, I've read some interviews that you've done in the past. Like I'm thinking of the old days, you know what I mean, when you were working in New York or finance or things like that. It sounds like you're really enjoying your position at Anago Cleaning Systems, aren't you?
You know what? Every day is unique, and I think that's what's the most exciting about it. Where I've definitely, and we've all had jobs where you go in and you go, okay, it's Monday and I have to do these 5 things, and it's Tuesday and I have to do the same 5 things, and for me personally, I that wears on you. Whereas every day is a very different day, and it's exciting to help set the direction and say, okay, here is I get to be Kennedy in the 60s. We're going to the moon,
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's fantastic. That's great. What's the best way, Adam, for our listeners to get more information on Anago Cleaning Systems? Of course, there's the franchise opportunity, but maybe even as the service itself, are there any websites you can kind of push them to?
Yeah, our main site is anagocleaning.com, and if you're interested in a master franchise opportunity, it would be anagomasters.com.
That's fantastic. And I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed talking to you, Adam, and I'd already like to invite you back over the next year or two as you continue to grow, because I love your industry and I love your brand, and I've been a fan for a while now, so it's been a privilege for me to finally get to speak to you.
This was pleasure was all mine, Marty. This was great, and it was great to finally get to meet you as well.
Thank you so much, Adam. I'll be talking to you again in the future, and we'll be right back with more franchise interviews. Coming up in our next segment, we'll be playing a clip from our Great Quotes in Franchising podcast right here on Franchise Interviews.
Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? Franchise Interviews, an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com. Or you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Hi everyone, this is Marty McDermott from Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. We've been hosting Franchise Interviews now over 8 years and over 400 shows, and during that time we've had some incredible quotes on our show. Today you're going to get to hear from Chris Simic, who is the founder of FranchiseTeacher.com, and Chris has over 30 years of business and franchise experience as an independent business owner, a franchisee, and a franchisor. And Chris said something very profound that we haven't heard on our show in over 8 years. He mentioned that you have to almost work harder to fail at franchising than to succeed in franchising, and he explains why.
Most people, about 90% I think I've seen, buy a business other than they first looked at.
Wow, that's amazing.
So
it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, that's a big number too, isn't it, Chris? That most people, they go in with these certain expectations and they come out with something different, and I find that fascinating.
I absolutely, it never ceases to astound me, but I think that speaks to the value of franchising as a business model and a business method, because people don't have to be in something just because they know it. And quite candidly, sometimes getting involved in a business that you would rather do that you were not involved in allows you the luxury of taking a new career path and to develop something you never would have had the opportunity to had it not been systematized and prioritized for you. In franchising it's said that you have to really almost work harder to fail than to succeed, because if you have a good franchise system, follow directions, you have to almost purposely not follow them to not do well.
That's true. That's fantastic. We have this great quotes in franchising. I think we're going to put that one in there, Chris. I think that's very original, and it's very true. What advice would you give to our listeners? We find that most of them, they're just beginning their search to buy a franchise, Chris, and we find that, most of them just simply, they don't even know where to begin, like you were saying. What advice would you give to them?
I do, when I speak to people looking at franchise, I give them 3 different pieces of advice. One, make sure you're looking for business for the right reason. A lot of people have things happen in their life. They lose a job or something happens, and they react and maybe say, well, okay, maybe I'll go buy a business. That may not be the reason to do it versus having the luxury of selectivity that here's my opportunity that was created by some adversity. Second thing is that they have to make sure that they are able to be franchisees, that not everybody is designed to be able to follow the systems, procedures, and the processes it takes to be a successful franchise owner. And then I tell them quite candidly is pick a couple of the industries and the price ranges that may have interest to you, and then kind of pin down from there, either using the resources of a consultant or a broker or a team member, or on their own. Either way, but I think that if they take their time, follow the steps, and do it for the right reasons, they'll be on a much smoother pathway to success in owning their own business.
That's well said. What's in the future then for Franchise Teacher, Chris? I mean, where do you see the company 3 to 5 years down the road?
Well, Marty, we've been extremely fortunate and blessed that the business has been around, through Century Franchise Group for many years. And our new FranchiseTeacher.com has taken off. We're representing right now, 7 plus brands. I think in 5 years, our focus will really be even more fine-tuned as the consumer or the prospective business owner is looking for more and more specific information. Breaking down to teach, coach, consult, and advise, I think will be a way for us to assist people in what they need. People, again, don't know what they don't know, but I think the information overload sometimes discourages people too early. They say, this is too much for me to process. If we can break it down into bite-sized pieces, I think more and more people, especially the younger generation, who are looking for the advice and the information they want when they want it, I think is going to do nothing more than continue. Then our next business venture, which launches at the end of this year, is looking to capture all the different franchise brands around the world and put them into one place. So we're looking forward to a future. And franchising is going nowhere but growing. As you said a long time too, the number of franchise opportunities, and the world's getting to be a smaller place. I think you're going to find a lot of opportunities coming in and going out of different marketplaces in different countries, accessible to more people.
That's fantastic. What's the best way, Chris, for our listeners to get more information on FranchiseTeacher.com? Obviously, FranchiseTeacher.com, but any numbers you'd like them to call or email addresses?
Well, actually, we appreciate www.franchiseteacher.com. And my business partner, Dave, and I offer them the free 1-hour consultation. Fill out the form and take advantage of it.
That's fantastic. I want to thank you again, Chris, for finally coming on the show. I've been following your career for a long time now, and I have just been very impressed with everything that you've done, So when I saw this, I mentioned to you, we don't typically call people to come on the show, but I had to have you specifically on the show. So it was an honor and a privilege to have you on the show today.
Marty, ditto, and again, congratulations on your PhD doctorate. I have read your thesis, and I would recommend it reading if people can get through
that's fantastic.
information.
I really appreciate that you read it too, because that's an honor coming from you. So that's fantastic. Well, I want to thank you again, Chris.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.